One of the things that I love to do with this podcast, the Tackling Adulthood podcast, is try to make everybody feel like they've got a hand in something. We've talked to experts in all different fields to try to get you started in something maybe you've never done before. We've shared good news stories from all around the country and all around the world, and just trying to make everybody feel better, feel valued, respected, and included. And I feel like we're going to have exactly that conversation today, and I'm very excited to do it. It is the Tackling Adulthood podcast, brought to you by the ARC of Lehigh and Northampton counties. The ARC champions a life of inclusion, opportunity, and equity for people living with IDD. You can visit arcoflehighnorthampton.org. And of course, by Cumulus Media Allentown, our 4-station cluster. Happy to bring you this podcast. If you could find it wherever you get your podcasts, like, subscribe, review, do all that good stuff, that would be great. And I mentioned valued, and I mentioned respected, and I mentioned included, and I mentioned the ARC of Lehigh and Northampton counties. And very excited to be joined by the Chief Executive Officer there. Lisa Musselman is joining me this morning to tell us all about the ARC. Lisa, it's good to see you again. Always a pleasure. How are we today?
We're doing well. How are you?
I'm from the first time I told you, I'm always on a gravy train with biscuit wheels. We're doing all right over here. One of the things that I love about this partnership, the first time you and I met was John and myself, John from the radio station here, took a lap through the ARC of Lehigh and Northampton counties, and it's just such a beautiful space. So I want you to, who better to tell us all about it than you? Tell us about it, what you all do there, and just the kind of love and big old hug that place is.
Absolutely. So the ARC of Lehigh Northampton counties has been in existence since 1967, so a little over 58 years now. So we've been around doing advocacy programs and services for children, teens, and adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. The building here that you visited was a very small part of what we do. We provide advocacy for children and young adults with disabilities and their families. So that advocacy is 100% free. We are not charging for any piece of that, to make sure that families and the young ones with disabilities have the resources, have the supports that they need. We collaborate with school districts to make sure that children are receiving the best education possible, so that when they graduate, they've got a career, they have an education, they have a path forward, whatever that looks like for them. So I'm very happy to talk about advocacy and to make sure that the little ones are prepared to become members of our community, to work, to have an education, whatever that means for them as well. So the mission of the ARC is to empower folks and families with disabilities through advocacy, education, and through our programs and supports that we have here. Our ultimate vision is to make sure that all people, disability or not, are valued, included, and have an opportunity to thrive and to be a member of their community in any way that works for them. So ultimately, that's the goal we're working towards.
You know, the ARC of Lehigh and Northampton County serves over 1,500 Pennsylvanians with IDD. I want to talk a little bit about that before we get too deep into a little bit more of what you all do. A word that you use there, you said folks and families, and I come back to that word supports. Can you go into a little bit about the support, not only for you, but for these individuals, their families, the role that they play, and just how important that support is for you all at the ARC?
Sure. So a lot of times individuals with disabilities and their families are told no. No, you can't do this. No, that isn't going to work. So imagine if any one of us were consistently told no, that something wasn't going to work or it wasn't possible. So the ARC of Lehigh Northampton counties comes from a place of yes. How can we make this work? And we look at every person as the individual that he or she would be. And what would that life look like, and what supports do you need around you? It takes a village, right? So we want to make sure that those supports are there. We all have that village around us. We have families, we have friends, we have community, and that's no different for a person with a disability and their family. So what we do is we build that village and that community around them to ensure they have all the resources that they need to be successful. We come from that place of yes, and that place of yes looks different for every single person that we support. And it could be a program, it could be a resource, it could be just somebody to listen to them and sort of hear them out, and to have that conversation and brainstorm about what life could look like. So that support is very different, but the ultimate goal is to make sure that folks are part of their community.
I love that. All right, so let's talk about a little bit more. We mentioned the support and the resources that are a
Mhm.
part of that support. Some of the wonderful core services, the resources that are there for you
Mhm.
all at the ARC.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, advocacy is at the heart of everything that we do. No charge to families and individuals with disabilities. We want to make sure they have the education, the support, the connection, the partnerships that they need to be successful. That is one of our core services, and it is something that the ARC is built upon. Our programs that you had the opportunity to see here is Spark. So Spark is located in our building here at in Bethlehem, but we also do a number of services in the community through Spark as well. So I'll talk about a little each of them. The In the building, many of our folks are working on the skills that they need to be part of their community, and that's different for everybody. And you saw a lot of the different activities going on here. So it could be things like living skills, or things like, okay, if I'm going in the community and I need to purchase something, how do I do that, and how do I use money, and things like that, and all the social skills that you work on as well. Some of the really cool stuff coming up at Spark right now is that we just built a sensory room, which is just a phenomenal space. We're still adding some things to it as well, but it's an opportunity if you just need a moment to collect yourself or to have that quiet space. That sensory room does it, and it really is a beautiful space. We're also adding on a brand new tech center, which is really cool, and adding some great iPads and 3D printers and things like that, so that our individuals have an opportunity to become more comfortable with technology and what that might mean. We're also building on an activity room and a resource room and a music room. So all some really great things to make sure that the folks whom we support have every opportunity available to them. Yeah, same opportunities we have. I want to ensure that those opportunities also exist for those folks as well. The individuals in Spark also volunteer in their community. So we work with Equilibrium, and working with some equine therapy up there. We have a brand new partnership with Lehigh University Art Gallery. So they're going to be getting some really cool art classes. I might join in on some of those. The possibility of having an art show at the end of all of this. And then one of our newer sites where they're volunteering is Joyful Giving, where they're putting together little bags for individuals in our community just to bring a smile to somebody's face. But the whole purpose here is to ensure that people in our community know we're giving back to our community. We're making sure that we're connected to our community, and we want to make our community a much brighter place to be. The Lehigh Valley is a wonderful place to raise a family, to be connected, to have those activities, and that should be no different for people with disabilities. And that's some of the stuff that we're doing in Spark as well. Our brand new program, about 9 months old at this point now, is called Next Steps. And Next Steps is for those young adults with disabilities who are either still in high school or recently graduated. We want to make sure that there is no gap between high school graduation, which happens a lot, um, and the start of what adulthood looks like. So, tackling adulthood. See, tie that right in. um, but they're tackling adulthood in a way that makes sense for them. Like, when I graduated from high school, I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do in adulthood. And it's no different than the folks whom we support as well. So, if it's education, we're going to take a look at what that might mean. Does that mean post secondary, at college or at a community college? That would be a great option. Or does it mean a career? So how do we help that individual find the career that they're truly going to love and look forward to going into work on Monday? So all of the things that we want for ourselves, it's the same for folks with disabilities, and Next Steps helps to do that. So we have that program. Our One of our other programs is called Infusion of Inclusion, and I recently had the opportunity to go out to one of the elementary schools in Bethlehem to witness this with Miss Pennsylvania. So there's
Oh.
some royalty there, right? Crown and everything.
I was going to say your crown looks fantastic. She took it off right before we started
I
the
did.
interview this morning. Yeah.
I didn't want to show off or anything. Yes. But we work with school students to make sure that they're including their friends with disabilities, whether it be in recess or having somebody to
Mm.
sit with at lunch, Or do they have a friend to sit with, in class or a music class or whatever the case would be? And we start from a very young age with that education on what inclusion means. We have presented to thousands of school students and quite a few school districts as well. And we keep that education and that advocacy going. And that's another program that is funded through some very generous donors to ensure that we can go out and spread the word that inclusion and kindness are the way to be.
Mm. I want to come back to make the shameless plug here of the Tackling Adulthood podcast. When I started this, I was at a kind of a transitional point in my life. I was married. I had a kid,
Mhm.
my first kid, and it was like the idea of the show was, being in my 30s at that point and looking back at my 20s and all the opportunities that I felt I'd missed, the people I could talk to, the knowledge to gain, whether that was something as important as how am I supposed to be taking care of my 401k or my taxes to something is just, I want to know how to bake. I've never baked anything before in my life. And that's where I want to start, and then you look at, in a situation like the ARC and the individuals with IDD, and it's not only starts there, but that support system is so important because what about transportation? What
Mhm.
about healthcare? What
Yes.
about housing? Can you go into a little bit more there about how you can help advocate for individuals with IDD in that part of their life? Things that even, in my 20s, I had no idea what I was doing. I was shooting from the hip quite a bit. You are there to be an incredible support system for people with IDD. So just a little bit further into that a little bit.
So, one of our other programs, in addition to Next Steps, that we can really sort of hone in on the transportation and all of those skills that you need to be a lot more independent, is our Agency with Choice program, which is essentially participant directed. So, the individual with the disability and their family are directing their services. So, things like transportation, how to use Uber, for example, to
Mm,
get to and from a job if you need that, or to and from, if you want to go shopping, and what does that look like? Looking at things like healthcare and Medicaid, and how do I manage everything when it comes to those very big concepts that are out
sure.
there. And we provide that support as well. But the Agency with Choice program, in addition to Next Steps, are ways that we could talk about, if when you have that job, how, for example, do I request time off? Or, if I
Mm,
need health care, do I take it through the employer sponsored health care, or do I look at other options and providing the education around that? So, all the things, when I had my first job, you're trying to figure that out and what that looked like, and then how to manage that. It's a lot because you're moving into adulthood. So, you're trying to transition into all of these new things, whereas
mm.
when you're in school, it's taken care of for you, and that goes for any one of us. So we provide the support not only to the individual, but also to the families as well, to make sure we have this information, we have resources. Call us with questions. More than happy to provide assistance with that.
I want to talk a little bit about how people can help. We've got people listening to this show right now, volunteering, donations, all of those things. How can the community make an impact for you guys? We're all here. We're all listening. I think this is a wonderful cause for obvious reasons. How can the community make an impact and help out the Arc of Lehigh and Northampton counties?
Well, there are many different ways to do that. And the first one that I always start off with is just to be open minded, to
Mm,
be accepting of individuals with disabilities, whether it be, if they're out shopping, or if they're volunteering, or, through employment, whatever those cases might be, is just to have an open mind and to come from that place of yes that I talked about, to make sure that everybody feels included in their communities and feels welcome and feels like they have a sense of belonging. We also encourage volunteering for any one of a number of our events. In March, we have an event coming up, and we'll send out information shortly on that. But it's an inclusive bowling bash. I mean, how cool is that?
oh,
You get
fun.
right? You get to spend a Sunday at Hampton Lanes, and everybody Doesn't matter what the score is. I like how I say that because my score is terrible. But everybody can have a great time bowling, and you make new friends, you make new connections, and it's just a wonderful opportunity to be connected to the community. We're always looking for volunteers there as well. In May, we have it's our One Step Forward Gala. It is a fundraising event, but it's a wonderful opportunity to recognize some champions from our community who truly embody inclusion and what that should look like. And then it's also an opportunity just to celebrate our community and all that the Lehigh Valley has to offer. So we have those opportunities to volunteer as well. We're also now moving into our annual holiday appeal. So we'll be sending that out in mid-November, some postcards and some reminders. But you certainly can go to our website, arcoflehighnorthampton.org, to donate online if you like. That money goes back into our advocacy programs so that families have that opportunity for advocacy and support 100% free of charge. We're not charging anything because I want to make sure that people have what they need as they move into adulthood. Because it's, again, any one of us have those challenges when it comes to transition. For folks with disabilities, it's a little bit more exacerbated at this point.
Sure.
And make sure they have the support that they need. So any one of those opportunities, we would welcome the support from our community because we realize that it takes a community for all of us to be successful.
I want to talk a little bit. You mentioned 1967.
Mhm.
That's a long time,
Yes.
and I would imagine a lot of progress from the time it started in 1967 until now. Lisa, I want to ask you. You've been in that seat for a little bit now. Where do you want to see it go from here? How would you like to see the art continue to grow? What do you feel like is maybe missing out there right now for folks, or something that you feel like, man, if we could find a way to get our hands on this, we could do so much good with this? I'm curious just if there's anything anywhere in the evolution of the arc and helping people with IDD that you feel like is very close, that you feel like could be a big step forward for what you all do there.
Oh, there are a few steps forward I want us all to take.
Okay. Okay.
So, I would love for our individuals to have more opportunities to volunteer, to give back to the community, to make those connections, because it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to connect with other nonprofits and to volunteer and to sort of share our mission and what that means. And when our individuals are out volunteering at Joyful Giving, for example, they absolutely understand the impact of the work that they're doing, which I absolutely love. So those volunteer opportunities are so critical for individuals to be connected back to their communities, to have jobs and careers. Again, when I came out of high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I was given that opportunity to develop a career because somebody believed in me. And I want
Mm.
others to believe in the people whom we support, that, coming from the place of yes, having that belief that yes, you can do this, and let me give you that opportunity. Just it goes a long way. And just, the ultimate goal here is to make sure that all people, disabilities, those who are neurotypical, have that opportunity to be part of their communities, to own a home, to live in their communities as independently as possible, to have friends who care, somewhere to go on a Friday night, right? When you're of a certain age, I'm past that at this point, but when you're a certain age on a Friday night, you want to
You and me both, sister. You and me both.
but you want to be able to go out and have fun with friends and make
Sure.
those connections. And then, to eventually be able to retire from what you love doing and to have those friends in retirement as well.
Mm.
So we are talking about a full life cycle here from birth to retirement, and to have those same experiences the rest of us have as we move through school into adulthood and then into retirement.
All right, we've mentioned volunteering. Donations obviously go a long way. The best way that people can, we've obviously mentioned
Mhm.
arcoflehighnorthampton.org. If you're watching this podcast, you can see that right on the bottom of the screen if you're looking for that information. But donations, how can people make an impact for you guys?
Certainly go onto our websites. It's the easiest way to do online donations. You can also mail donations to our mailing address here as well. There are some of our donors who prefer to do that, and it's more than welcome. Any support is awesome. So that address is 2289 Avenue A in Bethlehem. 18017 as well. Or you can simply give a call here and say, hey, I'd love to learn more about the ARC of Lehigh Northampton counties. How is my giving going to impact the services, programs, and supports that you all offer? Any one of us here, including myself, would love to have that conversation. We've also gone out to resource fairs, community events, etc., to have that conversation with folks to say, this is our mission, this is our vision, here's the impact on the community, and here's what your support does for the community.
I love that. I have to tell you something. Another reason why I've enjoyed doing this podcast so long is I think that people's enthusiasm and passion is contagious in whatever they're doing. Your enthusiasm and your passion is contagious, Lisa. And I think that you are in an excellent position to help the ARC of Lehigh and Northampton counties thrive. I started writing down every time you said, yes, how can we make this work? Yes, how can we do this? That's such an important, if we all have to start somewhere with one kind of central thought, I feel like that's the one to do it. I feel like you're the person to lead the way. I wish you continued success. I'll be back in the building sometime soon, I'm
Love
sure,
that. Thank you.
to help spread the love. And no, thank you for what you do, because it's amazing. So one more time, you can find them at arcoflehighnorthampton.org, the easiest way to get in touch with them. Lisa Musselman is the Chief Executive Officer over there at the ARC. Lisa, I appreciate you tremendously. Thank you for a great conversation today. It was really great.
Well, thank you so much. I enjoyed this.
It is the Tackling Adulthood podcast, and it's brought to you by the ARC of Lehigh and Northampton counties. The ARC champions a life of inclusion, opportunity, and equity for people living with IDD. Visit arcoflehighnorthampton.org and by Cumulus Media Allentown. Find this podcast on our station's websites and wherever you get your podcasts. Reach out to me if you want to get in touch and have a conversation with me. Would love to do that. You can find me at Crockett on Air on your socials. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Tackling Adulthood podcast.